Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. I know a lot of you use these videos to fall asleep, so before we dive into the stories, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. Also, let me know in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it for you? Now get comfortable, relax, and enjoy. It was the kind of night you never forget, the kind where everything felt off but you couldn't put your finger on why. I remember it clearly, like it was yesterday, though I wish it were a dream. My parents had gone on a weekend trip and I was left alone for the first time. The house was quiet, but not the kind of quiet that brings peace. No, it was the kind of silence that makes your skin crawl, that makes you feel like someone is watching you. I thought I was just being paranoid. After all, I was home alone, and it was supposed to be the perfect time to binge watch movies and snack without anyone bothering me. But that night, something changed. It was a Friday evening when my parents left. The I-Diet house was spacious, an old Victorian home, and I had always loved how big it felt. But that night, as I locked the door behind them, the house seemed different, darker. The creaking of the wooden floorboards echoed a little too loudly, and the wind outside howled through the cracks in the windows. I tried to push the feeling away, thinking it was just nerves. After making sure everything was secure, I went to the kitchen to grab some snacks and settle into the living room. The TV flickered on, the soft glow filling the room as I sank into the couch. I scrolled through Netflix, trying to find something to watch, but the usual comfort of being alone was quickly replaced by a strange unease. Every now and then I thought I heard something, a faint rustle from upstairs, a soft tap against the window. I chalked it up to the wind. The house was old after all, but then the sound came again, a soft scratching sound from the attic. My heart skipped a beat. I hadn't heard that noise before. The attic was always locked up, and I was sure no one had been up there. I stood up, looking around. The house seemed empty, but why did it feel so alive? I grabbed a flashlight from the drawer, deciding to check the attic. As I made my way to the stairs, the air grew heavier, colder. The staircase creaked under my weight as I ascended, and I hesitated at the top, the door to the attic looming in front of me. I had never been inside the attic. My parents always said it was off limits, but I had never really questioned it. Now, with the sound of scratching still echoing in my ears, I had to know what it was. I slowly reached for the attic door handle, but just as I was about to turn, the sound stopped. Dead silence. My breath caught in my throat. I hesitated, then opened the door. The attic was pitch black, the beam of the flashlight barely cutting through the darkness. The air smelled musty, like old wood and dust. There was nothing in sight, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I stepped inside, shining the light around. Old furniture, cobwebs, and boxes filled the space. Nothing out of the ordinary. But then I saw it, a small figure sitting in the far corner of the attic, facing away from me. My pulse quickened. I froze, unsure if I was seeing things. The figure didn't move, didn't make a sound. I called out, "Hello?" My voice sounded too loud in the silence. There was no response. I slowly took a step forward, then another. The figure didn't stir. It wasn't until I was close enough that I realized it wasn't a person at all. It was a doll. A lifelike porcelain doll with wide, glassy eyes and a cracked smile. It sat motionless, its hands resting in its lap. I let out a sigh of relief, cursing myself for being so paranoid. I picked up the doll, inspecting it. It was cold to the touch, and its eyes seemed to follow me as I moved. I shivered and set it down. That's when I heard it. A voice. Soft, almost a whisper. "You shouldn't have touched it." I whipped around, my heart pounding. But the attic was still empty. There was no one there. The only sound was the wind howling outside, but now it seemed to be echoing in the attic, growing louder and louder. I bolted down the stairs, the doll's eyes still burned into my mind. I ran to the living room, slamming the door behind me, my hands shaking as I locked it. I tried to calm myself, telling myself it was just my imagination, but something inside me knew it wasn't. The rest of the night passed in uneasy silence. I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone in the house. I stayed up late, watching TV, my eyes darting to the dark corners of the room. Every creak of the floorboard sent a jolt through me, but nothing happened. Eventually, exhaustion took over and I fell into a restless sleep. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of footsteps, soft, slow footsteps moving across the floor. I jolted upright, my heart racing. It was still early. My parents wouldn't be home until the evening. The house was supposed to be empty. I got up and crept down the hallway, every step cautious, listening for any sign of movement. But there was nothing. The house was still. I went into the kitchen, trying to shake the feeling of dread that was settling over me. As I opened the fridge, I noticed something strange. A picture that had been on the counter was now on the floor, face down. I bent down to pick it up, but when I turned it over, my stomach dropped. It was a picture of me, taken the night before, in the living room. Except, I hadn't taken that picture. I ran my fingers over the photo, but there was no mistaking it. It was real. How did it get there? Who took it? I scanned the room, the chill in the air growing colder, my mind racing. The footsteps I had heard earlier, they hadn't been my own. And now this photo. Someone had been in the house. I bolted to the front door, but when I turned the handle, it wouldn't budge. Panic set in as I tugged and pulled at the door, but it was locked. I checked all the windows. They were locked too. My heart was pounding in my chest and the room felt like it was closing in on me. I was trapped. And then I heard it, the sound of someone breathing. A low, raspy breath. It was coming from behind me. I turned around slowly, my throat tight with fear. There was nothing there, just the same empty room. But the air felt wrong. Heavier, like something, or someone, was watching me. My skin crawled as I backed away toward the door, hoping to find a way out. But before I could reach it, the lights flickered, casting long shadows across the walls. The room went dark. Darkness enveloped the house, and I could feel the temperature drop even further. I fumbled for my phone, but it was dead. The screen had gone black. "Hello?" I called out, my voice trembling. "Is someone there?" There was no answer, but the sound of footsteps returned, louder now, as if they were circling the house. I tried to stay calm, telling myself I was imagining things. But the fear was too real. The flickering lights came back on, but only for a second. The shadows in the corners of the room seemed to stretch unnaturally long, reaching toward me. And then, just as quickly, they disappeared. But the air still felt thick, charged with something I couldn't explain. I backed up against the wall, eyes darting around, searching for any sign of movement. It felt like the house was alive, its walls closing in, its floors creaking with every step I took. I felt like I was being pulled into something dark, something I couldn't escape. And then the whisper came again, this time louder, clearer. "You shouldn't be here." I turned, but there was no one there. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere all at once. It echoed in my head, a constant buzz of dread. I stumbled back, my breath quickening as I tried to make sense of what was happening. I needed to get out of this house, but every exit was blocked, every window was sealed. There was no way out. The door to the attic creaked open. I didn't want to go back up there. But something, some force I couldn't fight, pulled me toward the attic. The door creaked open, and the dark staircase loomed ahead of me, beckoning me to go further. I had to find out what was happening. Climbed the stairs slowly, each step like a drumbeat in my ears. The air grew colder the higher I went, and my breath became visible in front of me. When I reached the attic, I saw that the doll was gone. I felt a wave of nausea hit me. Something had taken it, but what? And then I saw it. A figure hunched in the corner, covered in shadows. It was waiting for me. I couldn't move. My legs were frozen, my heart racing. The figure stood up slowly, its shape indistinct in the darkness. It took a step toward me, then another. And then, it spoke. Welcome home. Conclusion. The world around me tilted, and I knew then, this wasn't my house anymore. It never had been. I was just a visitor, caught in the web of something ancient and dark. Something had been waiting for me, and now that I had found it, there was no escape. And as the darkness closed in, the only thing left to do was embrace it.